Hello, everyone. Welcome to the CX Impact podcast by GemSeek, now part of Accenture Song. My name's Mehmed, and I will be your host for this episode. We created this podcast to give voice to customer experience and customer insights professionals. The focus of this conversation today will be on CX and VoC in the pharmaceutical industry. We will talk about why creating superior experience in pharma is important, how we can do a better job at it despite some challenges, and what are the main opportunities we have in front of us. I'm joined by two distinguished guests, Christian Velten from Roche Pharmaceuticals and Tarang Agrawal from Takeda. Both Christian and Tarang have a wealth of experience in being customer advocates, and it is my greatest pleasure to host them today. Welcome. Starting with Christian, maybe. Christian, can you tell us about what you do at Roche and your adventure with CX and VoC?
Yeah, good afternoon, and thank you very much for having me. My background, my history is mostly in medical affairs, which is a little bit, for some people, it's a little bit weird when ending up in CX, but it makes sense. I joined Roche 2019, heading the customer experience department in our medical affairs organization since 22. I'm a more agnostic role on enterprise level, being a strategic lead for digital customer experiences, and my main focus is on developing, rolling out, deploying our global voice of the customer program at Roche.
Thank you, Christian. And Tarang, what about you? What's your experience with CX and what do you do at Takeda?
Thanks, Mehmed, and thank you for having me as part of this podcast. So I'm Tarang Agrawal, and I'm heading the next generation customer experience team for Takeda Nordics, and I'm based in Stockholm. And for us, I think CX at Takeda is increasingly becoming a much more important component of everything that we do. It's no longer a good to have or a nice to have within the organization, and it's becoming a necessity to drive that differentiated impact for the customers we deal with. I've been with Takeda for, I think, 2.5 years now. I started my journey in Singapore, where I was part of the digital team for a different region. And then I moved to Nordics and Stockholm last year. And in this 2.5 years, I've seen an exponential increase in the focus and emphasis around CX and digital within the organization in terms of resources, in terms of investment, keeping in mind that the needs of the customers are evolving and we should be there where the customer wants us. So that there is a very there's a strong wave towards becoming more customer centric in the organization. And prior to Takeda, I was in CX digital role for Roche for 3 years, and before that with Merck for a couple of years. So and then they all were back in Singapore for the APAC region.
Thank you, Tarang. And I want to kick off our discussion by talking about our North Star. So, Tarang, maybe starting with you, can you give me a picture of a great customer experience in pharma? How does that look like? And I want to know what's the vision when we talk about CX and pharma.
Yeah, thanks, Ahmed. And I think customer experience is sort of a journey, and I think we've taken a lot of good steps towards being more customer centric and then driving better customer experience. But I think there's still a long way to go before we actually become truly personalized in all experiences and engagement with the HCPs and customers. But I think some of the few factors that really are a vision or a North Star is one is being more customer centric. So it's not a new thing. Customer centric is a term that's been around for a while. But the question is, are we really customer centric in all engagement and all experiences in everything that we do, right? We want the customers to be at the center of everything we do, customers to be at the center of everything we plan, but often there are engagements or tactics or campaigns where we do it for all our target customers all at once. Some of that might work, some might not work from a behavioral change perspective, but I think there is still a long way to go where we reach a point where we actually truly personalized in all engagement. The other aspect, I think, is CX to be tied with business outcomes. And I think a lot of times CX or digital is looked at as standalone or a separate strategy or initiative on its own. And I think a true future or a true North Star would be where it's a very integral part of all the business outcomes or business strategy that we plan, and it actually fuels the desired business outcomes. The other aspect I would say is omni-channel engagement, and omni-channel again is a term or a thing that's been in the industry for a while, and it's been there for a while because it is that powerful, right? And omni-channel is not something that is again a standalone activity. It's something that fuels your desired business outcome, and we have a lot of channels, we have a lot of platforms. The idea is, how do we create that cohesive or consistent engagement or experience for customers, no matter which platform or channel they interacted with. And finally, I think the most important thing, not the most important, but one of the most important things is process improvements, right? So in pharma especially, we have processes that have been in place for a while. So if you talk about, let's say, approvals and previews and approvals of content, they've been in place for a while. It's high time that we relook at those processes, those steps, and identify where we can optimize them, right? So for example, let's say if it takes 30 days to get the content out into the market, what can we do to make that 30 days into a 20-day process, right? So there are a lot of things that we can use in terms of technology like AI, Gen AI, and a lot of things that we can relook in terms of SOPs. What are the redundancies? What are the steps that are, again, good to have, and what are the mandatory steps, and then see how we can improve the process going forward. So I think there are a lot of factors that contribute to a true North Star for CX, but I think these 3 or 4 are critical ones that we need to tackle right away.
Great. Christian, anything you might want to add?
I dare to say Tarang made some very strong points already, and I don't want to repeat all the good things he was saying. And what I like with Tarang's points, this is really, he's talking about reality. For me, the question is, why are we doing that at all? Why do we matter? And sometimes I have the feeling, and I'm coming from a company, so Roche has this strong customer centricity, ambition and vision for ages already. This is not new to us. This is, even I dare to say, in terms of culture and mindset, this is part of our DNA. The gap is translating this into action, translating this into reality, translating this into business implementation. And the challenge is that customer centricity is sometimes mistakenly seen as being nice. So we are customer centric because we want to be nice to the customer. No, this is about money. Customer centricity, CX, is about having more and better business. And the better business, again, leading to more business. This is what this is about. And this is where I'm focusing so much, and where I give it such weight. Not everybody might see it today, but not fully convinced that the business models that we have in place today will be the main business models of the future. Markets are changing already. Customer audiences are changing. I think we need to get smarter with closer meeting what our customers want, need, and desire.
Great. I think we already started talking about challenges a bit, and one of the challenges I really wanted to cover in this discussion is something we hear a lot in this industry, and this is the saying, we're not like other industries, we're different in pharma. How true is this, Tarang?
So I think all industries have their nuances and their regulations and where they sort of differ from each other, right? So for example, pharma is a highly regulated industry because we're dealing with drugs that actually transform the life of the patients, transform the lives of not only the patient, but also the caregivers and the entire ecosystem surrounding a patient. Similarly, there are industries where the regulations are not that stringent. Let's say, for example, e-commerce or FMCG, where you directly work and interact with your end customers. So we are not like other industry, and I know this is a term that is coined and said a lot of times, and that's true, right? Because when we're dealing with patients and their lives and the capacity to transform their lives, we want to be sure that what we're delivering is actually impactful and meaningful for them. And we do this under the umbrella of guidance and guardrails that are set by regulation. And that's very critical for us to adhere to. And because of which all the CX activities that we plan must follow those guidance and guardrails, just to make sure that we are on the right side of those and treating and engaging with the customer and patients in the right way. The other aspect I think about pharma is it has a very complex ecosystem, right? So we're not only dealing with patients, we're dealing with customers as an HCPs, we're dealing with regulators, we're dealing with insurers. So the needs and the wants of each of the stakeholders is very different from others. And from a CX standpoint, it's very important that we have CX strategies, engagement strategies that actually cater to their individual unique needs. And then, of course, if you look at the product's life cycle, right? So in pharma, typically you start with R&D and that could take a lot of years to reach the approval stage. And then you have the in-market presence of the drug before it goes off patent. Again, so from a CX standpoint, the engagement plans and strategies that you have pre-launch compared to post-launch compared to off-patent are very different in each stage, right? So it's very critical to know what your life cycle is of the product. And that again differs from maybe other industries where we are selling credit cards or maybe selling FMCG products. And then finally, I think one of the biggest thing that we need to be aware of is the data, right? Because again, we're dealing with health data, we're dealing with data of patients and customers. So we need to be mindful in terms of what data we are capturing, what data we are storing, what data we are harnessing to actually get insights for future engagement and communication. So I think there are similarities with other industries, but there are, of course, some nuances in pharma that we need to really respect and work towards.
Great. And what's your view, Christian?
Yeah, this we are so special topic. We are so special. Rubbish. It's just rubbish. It's a myth. And sometimes, sorry to say, it's a real bad excuse. Tarang has mentioned that there are three reasons which justify my opinion. Tarang has mentioned already. There are other industries which are regulated, and this is not the bug for me. This is the feature, because regulation helps us to do things the right way. Full stop. We are not selling chocolate bars. We are not selling chewing gums or cars. We are serving a special need, and we need to ensure that this happens the right way. So let's make use of the regulation instead of seeing this as a enemy. The second is, it's my personal experience. The longer I was working in VoC, they have to say 2 or 3 years, I might also have said it like, okay, we cannot apply it the same as they do it in other industries. No, we can. We are simply doing it. We are applying it quite the same. Yes, there are tweaks and there are some special considerations, but 80 to 90% is we are doing exactly the same. We are following the same rules, the same principles, and it works. I was last year. I was at Reuters Barcelona conference. I had people from Roche sitting in the room, listening a little bit to the left and to the right what the audience is saying while I was on stage. They had voices at that time saying, this is never going to work for us. It's not going to work for my market, for my affiliate, for my country, for my company, for my products, for my customers. 1 year later, sorry guys, it does. It gets getting real. The third reason simply is, if I listen to my peers, that they have a little bit of cross-industry network in the tech space, I hear exactly this mistake. They also hear in their companies, in their industries, we are all facing the same challenges, and we can learn so much from each other. For me, the point is, what can we learn by other industries which are at and where we can deal with pride?
Yeah. Great. And maybe if I can move our attention to another universal CX challenge that we face in pharma, and actually I would say not only in pharma, but something we keep hearing from all CX professionals is management buy-in. So how do we do a better job of communicating the value in CX and securing management buy-in? Maybe starting with Christian?
Yeah, I think you've chosen all the really exciting and interesting questions, right? So again, if I listen to others who are ahead, that's what they tell you. If you don't have management buy-in, don't invest any efforts. It might be a waste of time. Looking back to the last 2 or 3 years, and I'm happy to say that I have management buy-in. I have the support, so I'm proud of it, and I'm really, really happy about it. But I wouldn't dare that it does not fully go without. I'm a big fan of guerrilla marketing. You know what I mean? It's apart from the big internal announcements and these big emails about this corporate buzz speech, this doesn't work anymore. Today, I'm not giving any presentations on VOC or CX and speaking about the what and the how anymore. I'm not doing this anymore. I understand that if you're working in a larger company, you have a personal desire. And this personal desire is you want to show proof of your value before the next round of, reorganization happens. You want to have acknowledgement. You want to be appreciated. And those are fair human being expectations. This is something we all need. The risk with that need is that sometimes it drives us towards speaking about what we do, how we do it, and what my value or the value of my department is. I turn this around because it should be about the value created with the one I'm speaking. So what's in for the CEO? What does he have out of it? The GM and affiliate, our marketeers, our digital leads. How do we make their life better? So what's their value? That's point number one. And the second one, I'm mostly focusing on the why, and this why is built on real life success stories, not concepts, not promises, not castle on the cloud, no buzzword bingo. No, we have real life use cases where we have one which is showing how we translate it by using customer feedback and taking action on customer feedback, which is sometimes a little bit the forgotten power of customer feedback. How we translate it within a week with no efforts, a detractor into a promoter. This is a story I don't need to explain. This is self-explaining what the business value is. Well, this is my approach. I've decided to go, and I've said this by that.
Tarang, I see you nodding a lot, but is there anything you want to add from your experience?
I think I agree with almost all the points that Christian raised, right? And yes, management buy-in is and probably will remain a key sort of a stepping stone when you are planning something new or want to actually transform the ways of working or improve your current processes or do something transformative in the organization, right? So it's core. But the points that Christian raised definitely resonate, right? You need to actually show value, you need to show impact. Otherwise, there's no point trying to get buy-in from management if you are not able to quantify or actually do something meaningful either for the organization or for your end customers. And I think some of the things that resonated, of course, you want to show, you want to quantify the impact of CX externally, right? So be it either worth of the customers, be it customer satisfaction scores, be it customer stories or external benchmark of CX. You want to actually show that what you're doing from a CX standpoint is actually resonating with your end customers. It's actually delivering value that was something that you desire. You also want to show the impact of CX internally, right? You want to show, let's say, revenue uplift. And I know it's not a very easy thing to do where you attribute your CX measures or CX initiatives to actual revenue uplift. Mm-hmm. But that's one way. The other way is cost savings or efficiency gain, right? So you either improve processes, you reduce the time to do something from 2 months to 1 month, you're saving cost on headcounts, you're improving processes. The other is, as Christian also mentioned, right? You need to show value through, let's say, POCs, or you need to show proof of concepts, right? So if you want to launch a platform, if you want to launch an initiative, if you want to do something transformative, you can't go all in with all your logs, all your countries, all your brands at once. You need to have a problem defined. You need to have a solution in mind. You need to set some hypotheses, and then based on the hypotheses, compare what the results and impact was after a few months. And that is how you get management buy-in. That if your hypothesis was set in the right way and if the results are positive, the management or your senior leadership would be very keen and happy to jump on board and support you, right? So that's one very tangible way of getting support. And I think the fourth thing, which I think personally we often overlook, is communication, right? And any CX measure, any CX initiative, anything that you want to do takes time to actually show impact. You can't launch a website today and see the impact tomorrow. You can't launch a platform today and see the impact tomorrow. You can't launch an initiative today and see the impact tomorrow, right? So you need to communicate why you're doing it, how you're doing it, and at the start to get the buy-in, but then of course keep the management abreast about what's happening so that you get the continuous buy-in from management. So I think it's a important step, especially at the start, to get the sponsorship and backing from senior stakeholders, but then regularly keeping them aware of the progress moving in the right direction. It's very important just to get that continuous buy-in from them.
Great. And another thing I'm thinking about is, what about the opposite side? So what about when we think about the front lines, about the people who actually face customers? So not management, but how do we inspire the front line? How do we change behavior there? How do we rally them behind CX? Maybe Christian, what's...
There's holy grail, Mehmed. It's really the holy grail, because yes, we have more and more really, really smart technology. We have more and more processes in an understanding how things could work in theory. At the end, who does the business? The business is done by an individual that is engaging with the customer. If this individual does follow the old path or the old model, the best technology cannot change the world. And for me, what is really important, that behavior is something you do. Behavior is something you apply. This, you cannot draw this on a slide. You need to invite people doing it. And how can the way how I try to facilitate and to invite basically two things. First, making it as easy as possible. So if I want to do people in their day-to-day reality and knowing their reality, how they need to work and the pressure they are in, and where they need to invest time in making the change as easy as possible. If I have a template on the shelf, it's much easier to take this template off the shelf. It's quicker, it's easier, it makes my colleagues' life easier than asking them for a change and asking them to develop this themselves. So making it easy, putting it at their fingertips. And the second thing where the behavior is, let them experience. We speak a lot about customer experience. And we speak a lot about how important the experience by the customers is. Who is experiencing the customer's experience? Those are our colleagues on the front line. If they end up in situations that the customer is telling them, well, you know, last week Roche did this to me and it was so great. This is convincing them. Reality is convincing them. Proof of concept in reality, in what they day-to-day experience in their engagement with the customer, this is changing their minds. I have an exciting example with VOC with the field force. We had a lot of concerns about, all the psychology around. Will they accept? Will they adopt? Will they be happy about it? Will they actually see that as we are tracking their performance? And we had workshops, and we had, I don't know how much we invested months in thinking about. And then our affiliate in Mexico, that they did the pilot. They just did it. They just did it. And this is the key. Just do it. And I tell you what, once this is started, our field force people in Mexico, they love it. They even want more of it. So this whole, resistance, let's call it more diplomatically hesitance towards the new approach, this was changed by they experiencing the value of it. And this is the power. Perhaps one different point, if you allow me, I think what we need to learn in that context, and what also many colleagues need to learn as pharmaceutical companies, as science-driven companies, we are convinced that, and this continues being a strong part, that we are convincing people on our treatments based on scientific data. What we are generously ignoring is that, and particularly speaking about Roche, you could, for example, say, okay, we are in the oncology space. We are not selling aspirin. So this is anyhow a special condition, which means also the treatment itself has consequences. There is an impact on life. This is not just about getting a product or not getting a product. In any way, there is a change to life of the patient. This means they always have, even if we have exclusivity with our product, they always have an alternative. And this means they decide to go into the woods and dance around trees. And why do they do that? That because they don't feel empathy, they don't have trust, and they are not confident. So all those are CX features. And I think this is one of the key points we need to change across whole business, frontline, back office, wherever. We need to learn as an industry to more consider those soft skills, empathy, confidence, trust. And I promise everybody this will have impact on our sales figures.
Yeah, I feel like the people's importance cannot be overstated, but I want to hit Tarang with something maybe related. What about process? So how do we make sure how do we develop the right process? What's the approach there?
And I think this is a very relevant question, and just coming after Christian's insights on behavior change for frontline, right? So I think process improvement is a core element of CX, right? So you can't have better CX initiatives or better CX plans if you are still stuck with your traditional processes. So we don't have to look at process as a standalone activity that you need to improve process just for the sake of it. You want to improve process because you want to have better engagement with the HCPs so that you deliver better customer experiences, right? So depending on what aspect of CX you're talking about, the process improvements differ, right? So for example, if you're looking at getting your content to the market quicker, faster, in a more efficient way, you need to improve your approval processes, your review processes, identify where your redundancies are, where you're spending more time, whether it's actually worth spending that much time, whether you need 2 or 3 review cycles versus just one. You might need more review cycles if it's, let's say, a promotional material for external facing, but you need the same level of reviews for a non-promotional material, for example. So you need to understand what the current processes are, how you can improve those processes if you want to get to the customers faster. If you're talking about, let's say, a unified experience for the HCPs, right? So does a hub approach or a HCP portal approach work better compared to having many individual websites for each brand in your country? So, and then, of course, from an HCP standpoint, you want that consistency in experience, right? So when you're visiting a website of Takeda, you want to know that this is what you're coming here for, this is what you will exactly get, and this is where you'll get. You don't want to navigate through multiple websites and then try to figure out, okay, this is for this particular brand. The layout might be different. The information might be different, whereas this is for a different brand. Similarly, the other aspect is around data, right? In terms of processes need to be set in terms of what type of data you can capture, what data you can store, how you can harness those data, what kind of insights you can drive those data. Again, we're dealing with personal data, health data, right? So you need to be very clear and strict about what you're actually storing and using. And that requires, again, changes the process, right? Because traditionally, we might not be capturing data in the right way or in a consistent format. Now we need to improve our process to make sure that we have consistency so that when we drive insights, we know what we're looking for and we get richer insights. So I think process in itself is not a very glamorous aspect of CX. It's basically something that's in the back end. It's not something that sees the light of the day. What you see is basically the end campaigns or the end engagement activities. So process is normally overlooked or treated as a back-end activity, but I think from my perspective, process improvements are core if you want to drive better CX, right? The big challenge with all these things, of course, is the change management part and the mindset change, because a lot of people in the organization, they're used to set processes that have been in place for a while. And now changing those processes or changing ways of working towards a new ways of working, a new process might require a shift, which some of the people might not be comfortable with, some might be comfortable with, and there's an entire spectrum of comfort level, right? So I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we need to sort of talk about or look into in terms of how do we create that change process quicker. And that's again where your management buy-in and your top-down support also comes in. Your CX vision comes into place. So everything sort of gets linked into you in terms of how do you make sure that the changes that you're trying to implement is not sort of restricted because you have an old process that cannot be changed. So I think because of which I think process improvement plays a very important role in whatever you try to do with CX.
Okay, if you allow me to change gears a bit and talk about opportunities, and the way I want to do this is maybe I throw some words at you, things that we keep hearing a lot about, and then you give me immediately what's come to mind. And starting with Christian, you'll see technology and data.
It is foundational. The recent advancements are boosters for that, but the challenge starts where technology and data end, and that's we had it already. Human behavior taking action. Without that, all the technology and data is not really solving the issue.
Right. A word I've picked for Tarang is personalized. And here I mean personalized journeys, content, communication.
I think this is another holy grail, right? So we want to reach the end state where we are truly personalized as an industry, where we know each doctor, what their needs are, what their challenges are, what they want from us, and how we can make their lives better. And as a ripple effect, of course, the life of the patients better. But I don't think we are truly there, right? We've taken a lot of big steps. For example, next best action, segmentation, personas. We are going there. We are taking big steps, but I think we are still far away from saying that we are truly personalized as an industry, and we know each doctor 360 degrees, and we know what they want and how we want to communicate with them.
I was really happy that this question was for you, Tarang.
Yeah, and another one I have for you, Christian. What comes to mind when I say customer listening at scale?
It's easily achievable. It's easily achievable with the right technology in place, but this is not the challenge. There's a general misperception which sees VoC as being the collection and analysis of data. It is, but only a part of it. The statement I would like to make, it's a bold statement, but this is, I think this is closer to the truth. VoC is about taking action on customer feedback. And this taking action piece, this is not so easy to scale. That's what I'm currently painfully learning. So customer listening can be scaled with the right technology easily, no big deal. The taking action piece, this is tricky.
Couldn't agree more. And Tarang, omnichannel, is this something that we still talk about in this?
Omnichannel, I think omnichannel is a word that's been around for a long while, and it will stay for a long while. I mean, the definition of omnichannel is pretty simple, right? So it is basically you want to drive consistency in your messaging, in your communication through different channels in a cohesive way. So whatever term you use, omnichannel will still be there because you'll still have new channels, you'll still have content that you want to deliver, and of course you want to deliver them in a more consistent and cohesive way. So omnichannel only becomes stronger and stronger. The thing that is often talked about is omnichannel as an independent strategy, that I want to do omnichannel, that we want to do omnichannel in the right way. But I think omnichannel should be looked at as an enabler towards business strategy rather than an individual strategy, right? So omnichannel should be a medium through which you realize your business outcomes or your commercial outcomes rather than treating it as a standalone strategy that I want to do omnichannel because omnichannel is the right thing to do.
And Christian, maybe what comes to mind when I say predictive analytics?
Yep. At Roche, we use it. Our vendors use it. AI is a booster for that. It's really exciting what's possible already. I think there's a true opportunity as long as you watch it and you monitor it. So I think from time to time checking how much the prediction at the end really met reality as a kind of a counterproof. This needs to be done. So don't blindly trust it. Keep your own view and so watch it, monitor it, and then you can get better with it.
Yeah, and I think, and I know this is a question, but I think just to add on to that, right? Even at Takeda, we are trying to do a lot of things when it comes to predictive analytics or let's say marketing mix model or attribution analysis, and that is again just going to the fact that we want to quantify in this use case, quantify our efforts from CX to some tangible uplift in revenue or cost savings, right? And as Christian said, you need to take that with a pinch of salt that whatever you see might not be 100% accurate, but at least it gives you some sort of a direction or a view, which may not be 100% accurate, but at least it gives you a direction to look into. So I agree with whatever Christian said.
And Tarang, what about Gen AI?
Yeah, so I think Gen AI is I mean, it's no longer a new kid on the block, but something that we haven't realized the full potential of, or don't even know what the full potential looks like. At Takeda, I think we are experimenting, and I'm excited about what's the art of the possible with Gen AI, both from commercial use cases, non-commercial use cases, in terms of how do we improve our processes internally, how do we gain and drive efficiency and productivity using Gen AI. So I think there are a lot of unknowns when it comes to Gen AI, also because you want to give, you need to feed something into the Gen AI engine. And there comes the compliance, the regulation risk in terms of what can be fed and how will that information be used, right? So there are, again, a lot of unknowns when it comes to Gen AI, but I think there is a huge potential once we realize how Gen AI can be used in the compliant way to drive not only impact for the company, but also for our customers, patients, and then the entire ecosystem of healthcare.
I dare to say in 5 years ahead, we will not have those discussions anymore.
Yeah. I want to finish with something that we talk a lot about, which is competitive benchmarking when it comes to the voice of the customer. Christian, is that your waters?
So did you choose that one because you saw my recent LinkedIn post, which created some noise? Where I made a very strong and bold statement saying rubbish, crap, useless. With one limitation. So I hope there's nobody of my senior management now in the audience. But I'm very transparent here. I'm using it myself internally. If one of those benchmarks fits to my story, fits to my value proposition, so something showing, for example, that Pfizer is somewhere better than Roche, I use it internally for selling. But that's the only one, because there's a real risk with it. What does it really tell you? In case you're worse, this ranking shows you're worse than your competitor. Worse in terms of what? Does it tell you what you need to change? If it's better, if Roche would be better than the competitor, there's this risk. Oh, we are so great. We have done it. We are on top. So nothing else. We are safe. That you're better than the competitor doesn't mean that you're good. Can be that you're both really, really bad. You're just the less worse one. So I don't like them at all. I put a lot in our internal storytelling saying metrics is key. Metrics it's a sensor telling us if we're doing good or right. but there shouldn't be any metric without having an understanding how to use it, how to learn from it, how to take action on it. That's what I rarely see with corporate professionals.
Yeah, and then I'm probably just coming from my side, right? So I think we also at Takeda look at external benchmark in a similar way, right? So we take it again with a grain of salt that it gives a picture in time that this is where you are, but it does not. It may not tell you why you are sort of second or third, or why you are first, and what you can do to improve further, right? But one thing that we strive to do is we do it frequently so that we know again the trend, right? Whether we are progressing in the right direction or if we are progressing in the wrong direction. And then again, it might not give all the insights that you want, but at least it gives a good story that whatever CX efforts you are doing are actually resonating with the HCPs or the customers. So I agree with Christian. I mean, a lot of things might not lead to direct actions or direct insights, but it's just a good data point for that point in time.
Avoid the risk to celebrate yourself. It's good from time to time to celebrate the good work we are doing.
Yeah.
But with that, I see a little bit of risk to that. There's a temptation. Yeah.
Well, one last question, maybe to both of you. What haven't we talked about today, or in general, we don't talk much about in pharma? Is there anything you want to add to this conversation? And starting with Christian?
A lot of things. I dare to say there are a lot of things we don't speak enough in pharma. And I'm coming back perhaps to an initial point. The why are we doing that? And my personal driver is, and I'm not saying that this is true, but I think good reasons and the good narrative and the good rationale in place why I'm not wrong. The industry needs to change. The business model that is in place today, which is mainly focused on the molecule, this misses the opportunity for additional business around. Our customers are changing. The role of the patient is dramatically increasing, and we are just running behind. We don't really have mature answers to that today. The decision on the treatment I'm getting as a patient, my mother gets, my daughter gets, this is no longer only the HCP's decision. Get this out of your heads, guys. So we need to get prepared today for business model of the future. And we need to start working on this now. And this means there needs to be more business beyond the molecule, even provided the molecule will always be at the heart.
Yeah. And I think I agree with what Christian said. And one of the things that I think from an industry standpoint, it feels like we're always sort of playing catch up when it comes to be it business models or be it innovative ways of engaging with it or your customers or innovative ways of using data. I think as an industry, we are still playing catch up with let's say the FMCGs or the e-commerces of the world. And I think looking at the amount of investments we do in the industry on CX digital, the amount of resources we have now, the amount of emphasis we have on this, I think one thing we probably need to talk more about is how can we sort of leapfrog, or how can we sort of exponentially change the ways of working? How can we change how we sort of operate internally within organizations to actually cater for the scenarios of the future that also Christian touched upon?
Tarang, Christian, it's been a great conversation. Thank you both for joining. And thank you to our listeners. And we'll be back with another episode of the CX Impact podcast very soon.
Thank you much for having us. Well, having it for pleasure. Thank you.